All right. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to Way of 1% podcast. We're just going to dive right in. My name is Latrell. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Sure. My name is Brandon.
We're doing last name?
No, you don't have to do last name.
Miah.
And then we're just going to dive in with a quote, and we're going to go from there and we'll see where it goes. So the quote I have today is by Miyamoto Musashi. It says, "To know is to know that you know nothing. That is the true meaning, or that is the meaning of true knowledge." And I like right where my brain goes with that is kind of like how we were talking earlier, is even for the people that are diving in and questioning, or, you know, just trying to do stuff that is against the grain, or even questioning what does the money mean or what is the value of that. It's like, it can almost seem like maddening in a way. And I think we were having this talk earlier, like when you do, like you go from one book, or you start to look at the color of the egg yolk, and then you just start to question things and question things and question things. You almost like hit this point every time where you learn so much. It's like, oh, I still really don't know anything, because there is like so much to learn.
Right.
And yeah, so that I almost feel like that is like, some people say like the difference between being smart and wise is like, smart is knowing a lot of stuff. Being wise is knowing that you don't know everything.
I was just about to touch on that, like the arrogance of people who think that there is nothing more that they need to know, or those type of people who think that they know everything. That's the wisdom about people who are open-minded, people who are willing to like listen and understand, like, wow, there is so much to learn about that, even if they're not interested, like something that someone is telling them. Or I think that it's interesting too, having discussions with people on topics that you don't agree on.
Mm.
Because not every disagreement has to be an argument.
Yeah.
Like, not every conflict has to be an argument. It could be a learning lesson. Even if you don't walk out holding hands, you still learn something about the perspective of why they think like that. So I think it's very interesting, that quote too.
If it's, I would also say it's like not just about learning, it's also like unlearning. You know, everything that you've got throughout this time, you create that perspective. You know, that's how you start portraying yourself and stuff. So to ever be able to consider that you might be wrong is also like a very growth time. I mean, I think that's the biggest part about sharing conversations or meeting on a subject where two people have two different sides, is that one person should be, or at least both people should hopefully be willing to unlearn maybe what they've heard, or,
Right.
you know, so they can open up their mind. And that is like, I think one of the biggest forms of wisdom is like just being able to know that your brain can be wrong. You know, your brain can put, like, we've had so many subjects on that, but your brain is very strong.
And I think like that is almost the thing that keeps the person who is wanting to learn, is that's what literally keeps them learning, is the person who's like, there's a difference even between debating or discussing a topic with somebody whose goal is to win, you know, win in quotations, or be right, versus the person who is just wanting to learn something. And if you have the mindset to be vulnerable, or, you know, not feel like, well, if you know, because there's even like in the personal training space, there will be people that, you know, if you get a question from a client, some people will just try to, you know, fumble their way to the answer, even if they don't know. But I would always have so much more respect for the person that is an expert in their field, and you ask them something regarding their field, and they were like, I actually don't know. But then that person's like, you know, I was always the type of person, at least when I was personal training, like, I don't know the answer right now, but I'll definitely go and try to find it for you. You know, and now instead of you hinder your growth by trying to make it seem like you know something, and just so I can seem smart in front of this person, giving yourself the opportunity to then go and learn some more, like, that's what keeps you ever learning, is to go. And I mean, it's the same thing of like, you should always be constantly trying to train your weaknesses, and not always trying to like, let me just make myself look strong. Let me play it to my strengths.
Like, overplay my strengths. Like,
exactly. And then sometimes those almost end up becoming even weaknesses as well, because now you didn't strengthen your weaknesses. Now your strengths aren't as secure and aren't as strong as they could be.
Yeah, because how much growth is it if you're already going into something knowing that you're good in it? I think it's like you said, yeah, it's more strength going into something you know you're not good at and trying to get better. And that goes into every aspect, whether you're learning about education or fitness. If you're going into the gym and you know you're pretty good at a squat, but you need to work on maybe your arms.
Or a pistol squat, or
Right. Just keep it going. I think that is so destructive to have a mindset to where there is no self development or no type of self accountability. Like going back to what you said about unlearning, I think that's really important too, to have to be humbled, to understand like, wow, I was maybe wrong about that. I think the people who can't do that and are incapable of it is very destructive to them and the people around them too. And it almost kind of keeps them like stuck in time. Because those type of people, you never see them like doing anything else.
They don't go anywhere.
Yeah, and the world is changing around us, and it just can't be that way. You can't sit and say like, oh, this is the way I'm gonna do it, and everything I've been doing is right. So I think that was a very interesting point.
And that was like that. I mean, that's literally, it won't spoil the show for anybody, but if you haven't seen it, Dragon Ball. I mean, that was the whole reason why Goku even got stronger, is because he wasn't seeking out opponents that he could beat. Goku was seeking out the ones that he couldn't, because then those people, he's like, okay, now there's a new benchmark of where I could be. And that's what I think, especially, like, obviously that's an exaggeration because it's an anime, but the principle still holds, is like, if you see somebody in the position that you want to be in, or doing something that you want to do, or they have whatever it is that you want to have, no matter what it is, we're all of the same species. So instead of you being envious or jealous of that person, or like, oh man, why me? Why can't I have that? That is only a reflection of your own potential, because they're a human just like you.
Right.
Anybody that has done anything up until this point, as far as we know, they're human just like you. They have the same blood. We all live on the same planet using the same sun, the same moon. So why can't you go out and begin to do things for your life and go against the grain, or move things? But I think that, even like, obviously it's easier said than done, because this is where it also goes into like, once you are trying to become somebody who you want to become, you got to sacrifice who you are right now. And that can be very difficult, because like you said, like trying to unlearn, well, if you hit a certain age, even, early 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, especially getting around those ages, looking back and having to go, man, maybe a lot of what I done up to this point wasn't always right. That's a hard thing to do.
It takes strength, for sure.
You would like to do that as soon as you can too, so you're not hitting a wall when you hit 30 or something like that, and then wait. Like that's what I feel like most people do, is like they don't get their consciousness till like their 30s. At least a lot of the other people I talk to. So like when I talk to them, they're like, "Wow, you got a good head on your shoulders. You're doing well." But it's like, and that could be just because of the internet now for us. Maybe that's what helped us get ours a little faster. But that questioning and going back to yourself and trying to identify yourself is very important thing. So for growth, I mean, but also it's your battles and stuff. So like in the anime, it's not always a monster. Your battle could be like bills. Your battle. So being able to translate some of these messages and relating it to your own perspective, like your view, is the important part. Is like your book, your guidance to what you're doing. So you can actually have more form for your emotions, and probably, because that stuff's more feelings than it is a form in front of you. So if you can relate it to something, it gives you more power and control maybe to be able to learn and, unlearn along the way, because it goes hand in hand, I think, with your connections and your reactions to conversations and everything. So, yeah, I love talking about how these, how quotes, mean so many different things to different people. I mean, one quote can mean, like, it'll relate to you differently than it'll relate to me. It'll relate to you differently.
Exactly.
I love that so much. But that's another thing about conversation, just us talking and stuff. It's going to be the hardest thing to, unless you keep moving in one direction, like almost think of your thing as like a timeline. If you keep pushing towards that timeline with your soul, your heart, that energy that you're holding on to, I think as long as you're genuine with your intentions, you'll shine through, as long as you're constantly picking up and learning that your brain is growing along that way. So these new signs, these new signals, these new things that I have to talk about, new feelings,
But I mean, that's also, going back to the unlearning and, like you were saying, ignoring the people that don't have the ability to question what they've done or having the self-reflection, it's like, how much have you missed out on potential opportunities just because you stayed in that comfort zone? And then the things that happens, like when you stay in that comfort zone, is you end up atrophying all of the potential things that even, can add to your life's journey or your personality as you're going through those things. Like, I would not be the same person if I didn't, have left the country at such an early age or went out and did these experiences. If I would have just stayed in my comfort zone and stayed right in the same, echo chamber that I was staying in, we wouldn't even be sitting here right now.
Exactly. Right. And that same comfort zone can be like a monster, like he was talking about, as far as like your monster can be your bills. And I think some people's biggest monster is themselves. Like, I think it's in, the book that you discuss about most people, jealousy strives from seeing someone else have a dream and it's not matching the work ethic. And I think that goes into like your perception of your rejection on yourself, you're projecting onto what everyone else will think about you. So you don't do things to go chase those dreams, or you don't do things to go reach out to that family member you might need to fix, or just taking those next step to that self-development, because the biggest monster is you and your brain. So
as soon as you start feeling good too, that's another thing. You'll get comfortable, so then you almost stop the route of
the very thing that led you to feeling
exactly.
good.
Yeah.
And so then that's what I'm almost saying. It's like when you get to success, it restarts.
Yeah.
It's like you got to realign yourself with your timeline, your passion, your interest and stuff, and then like almost go back and identify yourself again. And
that's definitely true. You hit the nail on the head with that one, because when I started my lash business, it was I had to get to know a whole new me. I had to redo the way that I talk to people in public, and it was a whole new problem. And my perception of it really isn't a problem because of like how I try to look at life and situations. Right. But that's definitely true. I think that if I would have been focused on having the business, I wouldn't have had it this long, because it's not easy. Yeah. It's a new battle. It's a new world. You have to get to know a new you, and it's going to be new problems. Exactly. Like going to the J. Cole song, Love Yours, like it doesn't mean that you get these things, you're going to stop. It's going to fill the void. Like, you have to find it on the journey. So that's definitely true.
I mean, everybody's on this journey as well. So, like, the way you capture it, the way you express it, I mean, this whole time you're waiting to build your story, but your story's happening right now.
Exactly.
Like, the shots you're taking, the way you want to maybe even dress or so, this is your light. Like, these eyes are your camera, your movie that's being played right now. So you get to choose how that movie feels to you, how, like, what you want to have visually in your movie, what. So being able to tap into that and actually surround yourself with those real things that you like has helped me a lot as well. And like just transformation and growing, because I like almost changed my scenery around me. When I re-identify myself, it's comfortable for me. I guess I'm that left-handed artsy side or whatever. So I know everybody's different. But.
And I mean that right there is like, even for me, I mean, even having, the quotes on my phone or having the mindset in the back of my head, it's like, it's so much easier said than done, because I mean, this is why, like, the difference between somebody who does do something and somebody who doesn't is that person who did something, they got up more times than what they fell down. Because in those moments, that shit be real.
Absolutely.
When you're down, and you have the bills, and you have, you might have the family issues, or just, daily life, traffic, just, little minor inconveniences that you can end up letting get to you. Some people, this is why it is important to go out and do something different in your day, because that is going to then build up your resilience and that callous to those things that do happen. And that's even the difference between, it's like some people that do just look at everything like, oh, it is negative and doom and gloom. It's like, bro, it's not that the people who are looking at life in a positive way are always positive. It's just that they're always trying to go back to that, so that becomes their norm.
Right. And
then when they are feeling bad, that is no longer out of their norm. Some people are always bad, and they have this one little moment that they think, it can even be their perception, but they'll have this one little moment or when they think they were happy or when they were happy, and they're only I just kind of lost my point.
I
think I feel like you see where I'm going.
Yeah, picking up on that exactly. That's the difference between happiness and joy, right? Because I think that people forget like happiness is the emotion that we feel from something that's happening currently in your life. Joy is the ability to see life on a bright side even when it's down.
Yeah, because it's gonna be down, and
yeah.
I mean that was literally like my exact point is like you're building up the resiliency. So when it is down and you are feeling down, you should still go through those moments. Like you don't want to become a person who's just delusional. Like, bro, you're about to lose your house, you're about to lose everything, and then you're still like over here like, no, I'm just happy about it. It's like, no, that's not what we're talking about. Like you can still go through your emotions, still go through the sadness, go through the pain, go through the anger, and you know then you'll get to the other side. But it's just creating that new normal for you.
Yeah, it gives you space, like when you have that callus, instead of everything having to be reacted to so fast. If you've been able to experience it or build that callus, gives you time to think and still react properly, I think. So, I mean, I jumped in so vague right there. You know,
no, but I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, it gives you now, like, you know, if you do lift weights on a regular, you know, I'll constantly go back to that because fitness is such a passion. If you do lift weights on the regular, it now gives you more freedom to then, when you're lazy on the days, it's not going to be as detrimental. If there's a day you do want to have some, you know, some junk food, or you do want to just chill out and play video games, well, you have built up your resilience in a way. You've earned that.
Well, the biggest thing
you can afford that.
That's what I was going to try to say too, is that the callus along identifying everything and seeing everything and making the moves, you have emotions, along those ways that are very strong. You know, at least for me, I'm an emotional person, but like, those get in the way. Those change your mindsets. You'll wake up in the morning and not be able to think the same way that you were thinking just before. So even if you try to balance your diet, even if everything's going right, you know, it'll happen. So it's
and I've been there. I've been like, man, I'm doing everything right. I would have my protein. I hit the calories. I hit the gym.
But it helps,
and you still.
It does help because you've been doing those 1% and stuff like that along the whole way. If you don't, then you get another like level of burden or something like that, and then you feel like you're way too far behind. So the 1% seems inevitable or so. But those emotions, I think, are very worth talking about because I think that can change. I mean, me and you could be having the best conversations every day and stuff, but if you get emotional without us being comfortable with emotions and understanding how to express those between each other and stuff, then you could lose sight of that, you know, train or, you know, or start looking at things differently, and then you have to. So I guess like what is that? If emotions need to be calloused, or you know, if you need to be calloused more for the emotions to process things more correctly, that's all I'm trying to say. I guess that helps along the journey because I feel like emotions control me a lot of the ways. So if I feel like nothing's right, then sometimes I really have a hard time being able to grasp what is right, maybe. But I kind of know, and that goes back to like the timeline and kind of just shoving your energy and like your feelings towards a direction. Like, I'm genuine. I'm going to stick to that. I don't hate people, you know, or something like that because they've made me mad or something like that. I know deep down inside I love people. So just like, I mean, just woosah, you know, take that breath. And hopefully, I mean, I'm able to do that a lot easier now because of how many times I've probably rethought of the same thing or
that callous.
Yeah,
exactly. So.
And it's almost like too the people that are like they have this, you know, that mask on that everything is just so bad and so, you know, so doom and gloom. They might not realize like I remember it was Adam Lane Smith. I heard him say it. He was like, it's the rule. It was, I might butcher it, but it was a rule like 250. And essentially what it was like, picture you interacting with one person, and then that person goes and interacts with two people. They go and interact with four. And eventually that chain reaction of whatever that was with that person, you hit 250 people.
Just like what happened to us in Walmart. We ran into a guy at Walmart, and I think Latrell had asked him like how his day was already.
Yeah.
And he immediately was transparent and said like, you know, I dealt with a horrible customer today, and it honestly
it was like right
mood.
before we had just talked to him.
Yeah, he was like, it honestly ruined my mood. And like, we're already like, you know us, like we're positive vibes. And then we hear that, like that's alarm to us, like, oh, we got to cheer this guy up. So we immediately all just start saying things to him like, oh, forget him and it doesn't matter. And immediately they told him about the Korean hot pot he didn't know about, and he really liked it. And immediately he started smiling, and we started talking about that as we left. Like, hopefully he's not thinking about that guy
He's
anymore.
gonna be
He's
thinking about that
the
Korean
hot
bar.
pot.
Yeah,
So
Korean
yeah,
barbecue.
that's true. Like imagine, I wish we would have got to see the rest of his day
Yeah.
and the rest of the people that he talked to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it lit up a little bit. He was able to now think clearly, hopefully, maybe have that space of
Or at least
free
look
thoughts.
forward to something more.
Or like,
than
man, there is
just-
some cool people out here,
'Cause
you
that's
know?
almost
Yeah.
how emotion is exactly, is that it's just it's in your force. Like he had to tell y'all that that's what it was going, because he knew that he wasn't up, type
Mhm.
thing. So emotion's so strong. It's
Yeah.
very strong. So that's awesome as well that y'all even cheered him up, because I also believe that affected other people throughout that day.
Because damaged
And that's
people
love
damage
right there.
people.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's literally like even on the small interactions I do have with people, even when I'm not feeling in the best mood, I might not, I'm never going to present that negative energy on them. I'm either going to be neutral, I'm going to be positive. It's going to be one way or the other, because I know that energy, like if they're walking, you don't know what kind of day like people have had, and if they're walking behind me and I shut the door on their face, well now they're going to go and tell their significant other, yeah, this guy just shut the door on my face, and now they're not going to be feeling good because, oh, he's got the door shut on face, and then they're going to be piling that on to
Imagine
whatever
what
else
their
happened that
kids
day.
are watching too, and kids take on emotions like 10 times more than we do. If you see your parents crying and you don't even know what they're crying about, you can think about that for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my God, I remember seeing my parents just wailing out and crying. So yeah, I think that people should really pay attention to how they react to people and how they treat people, because it can really trickle down really bad.
Yeah, like it's much more than just that small interaction. Like you were creating it, obviously this is like really zoomed out. It might be some Rick and Morty stuff, but it's like you are creating this chain reaction, and eventually look, it's 20 years later and an entire society is in dysfunction. Obviously that's
Right.
a very exaggerated version.
No,
but I mean that,
that's how it works. I kind of picked up on this, I think, when I was like younger in like algebra, and I kind of just related it to like if you multiply anything by a negative, it's a negative. It's gonna be
I
a
never even
negative.
thought about that.
So,
It's
like,
real in science and in everything.
Oh,
like,
me.
But like I learned it through like the things I went through. But of course, you get to see someone come, like even if you got everybody positive and then you have someone who's negative just so strongly, it's hard for those people who were even positive. I mean, we're getting better at it now because I think a lot of the people share with the internet and stuff that a lot of the world is, slummish. It's crashing on a lot of people's depression. Man, train of thought.
it'd be
No,
like
you're good.
that.
That's I've had so many of those moments. It's
Yeah.
like you were saying, like, oh, we're about to crack the universe
Yeah.
there, and then I lost it. But
Oh, but the negatives, yeah. So like, I got to witness like almost firsthand that like I could be having the greatest day, and then all of a sudden, I'm sorry, I could be having like almost the greatest day, and then all of a sudden like that bad energy comes in, and it's so hard. Even if you want to be good, you could try to say like, hey, how you doing? And like try to cheer him up. Boom, gets shut down with negativity. Oh, it's bad. Oh, everything's bad and stuff. So just kind of still projecting that. You just not letting that affect you. That was another thing. Like I looked in the mirror almost after that and was like, I don't want to be upset. And luckily that was enough for me to be like, okay, you don't want to be upset, so don't be upset. Like I understood that I had control in that moment. Like I was me right here, right now.
Yeah. And that's
And that-
interesting too, because like you were saying, is when it's your own emotions, like they're hard to fight off, but even other people's emotions are hard to fight off too, just the same. Like if no one knows, like, yeah, if you wake up and your emotions are attacking you and you're like, no, I'm going to have a good day. And then you go out and someone else's emotions are attacking them and they attack you with with you with
You could be
theirs.
affected.
Yeah, and it's just like it's crazy. I didn't think about that until you had made that. That's a really interesting point. Emotions are very strong, even if they're not your own.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
It's and that's another thing. It ties to like influences. Like that's your brain. So your brain and you have emotions. Influences are also separate from emotions as much as they are emotions as well. But influences guide you. So like they'll push you. And an influence to me is like an expressed somebody else's energy. As an influence, or another energy that you were not aware of, I guess, is an influence to me, which could be a good thing. You can have good influences, but bad, like, you got to understand how many things are an influence. Like every minuscule thing, you wake up and you open the window, the birds chirping, that's an influence on like light, daytime, everything's, it tells you what's happening right now.
Yeah.
You're being influenced to be told and kept up to date right now.
yeah,
So then if you're at work and you're in the middle of like something heated and stuff, you're being influenced by someone else being stressed out and stuff. You gotta keep your energy projected towards, hey, we're positive, we're, stuff. Keep your ball like solid. Still assist to these people and talk to these people, but
well, I think even like when you do begin to question that, now it gives you the like once you already coming from that mind space of like understanding that how that can affect somebody, it makes you look at what that other person is potentially going through.
Mm-hmm.
It's like instead of just because some people go through rude interaction, and obviously like we all do it, and they'll just be like, oh, that person was rude. But then you can also go like, man, what is that person going through for them to be even acting that way? What's happening in their life that they're now projecting that emotion? But, yeah, and I mean, that's...
Touching on, like, all this self-development, I always love talking about it because I think it's just really important for everyone, like, in every age and every aspect. Like, you're supposed to teach babies that accountability, self-reflect, and then adults, if you have kids, it's so important to do that too. So I always love talking about self-development.
I love being able to see a kid express himself. Like, even if, I've looked at it differently now. Like, even if a kid's crying at like a table or like whining or just like, I don't know, has an opinion that's like not as direct or like nice or something. I think that shows a lot, like for a kid to not be so suppressed and to be able to share that emotion, because they're going to feel emotion, especially if it's like the first time they ever felt that emotion. They're feeling rage. It's just like, oh, I have to express myself, know? So like the fact that they're able to feel that freedom and express themselves, I've been almost looking at things freely like that too. If you ever have someone who's just like a little bit more out, maybe it's different. I try to be collected so I don't shut anybody down. And so if you're trying to be more receptive to a lot more people, I understand if that would turn people away, if you're like loud and stuff with your always giving an opinion all the time, I guess. But it's still very amazing to me that people can find that like sense of expression, like to connect. It's very hard for me. I was very blessed to feel the connection between like action in my brain and like emotions. I guess those are like the three things: emotions, action, and then just like how you process everything from your brain. So being able to put those together and understand where those come into play kind of make up, it's like an equation of life, and let's see, man. Let's jump to something else.
Jump to something else, bro. You go so well. It's almost like you second guess, like,
I know, like the good way to sum me up is like, it's probably, I'm so close to writing a book. I just can't finish the book.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about this first pre-demo?
Honestly, I'm just looking at you guys. Like, I appreciate you being here, and I know I said it
Shout
earlier.
Out to Miah. Cut to the camera.
Miah on the producer.
But I just, like I said, that was the thing I had said even at the beginning is like the little things just becoming, the thoughts becoming actions, and then you look up, it's like, oh, we have mics in front of our hand or in front of our faces, and we're sitting here talking in an entire studio.
A year ago, like, would you picture yourself in this room?
No, because a year ago I was trying to do it out of my apartment, and it did not look anything like this, or it didn't sound anything like this.
Wild, bro.
Yeah,
awesome.
So I think that's where I keep like coming into my conscious in this moment, because I'm like, yeah, I just realized like, yeah, a year ago I was trying to do this very same thing with way less equipment, not being the person who I am today, and still trying to make that happen. I mean, even then, that was like, that for me was big. I was like, this is a reflection of what can be, even to just by us. Like, I had literally a 2-camera shot with iPhones, and trying to make it happen. So the fact that this has come to fruition, like, I think if people were really just able to, get out of that. And it's not even just get out of that. It's just like, man, just wake up and make one different decision. Like, you would always call me when I was overseas in Japan, like, do something different today. Do something different today. And I think that if people can just, wake up, and then no matter what it is, like, bro, just, you always wear a red shirt on Monday, put on a yellow one. Something literally as small as that.
Right there, yeah.